You're welcome, sir. You can please have your seat.
And emotional well-being. As a distinguished director, Emmanuel Adebayo is an esteemed psychiatrist and psychotherapist with over 10 years of dedicated experience in the realm of mental health and emotional well-being. As a distinguished TEDx speaker, Dr. Abayomi actively leverages various digital media platforms to assist individuals from diverse backgrounds who grapple with everyday emotions, cognition for aspects of life, including work and personal circumstances. With compassion and expertise, he fosters hope, facilitates healing, and promotes growth, empowering individuals to embrace a more fulfilling and enriched human experience. Dr. Abayomi holds fellowship status at the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria and is certified as a therapist of rational and multi-behavioral therapy. Additionally, he is recognized as a contextual behavioral science therapist, demonstrating a steadfast commitment to mitigating human suffering and advancing human well-being. Presently, Dr. Abayomi serves as a consultant psychiatrist at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Aro, Abeokuta. He also holds the role of co-founder and executive director at PsychSed, a mental health technology startup, offering round-the-clock virtual therapy and in-person sessions at working offices located in Lagos, Abeokuta, and Ibadan. Beyond his professional endeavors, Dr. Abayomi is a devoted Christian, husband, and father. Global harvesters, ladies and gentlemen, with the warmth and joy that we carry, please give a global harvest welcome to Dr. Emmanuel Adebayo.
Thank you very much, media. You know, when somebody is very good, you introduce them 2 times. So once again, you're welcome, sir. So we have maybe about 30 minutes on the clock, and we have a lot of questions for you. So I'm just going to start by asking, so we hear about mental health. What is this thing about mental health? What exactly is mental health? When we talk about mental health, what are we referring to? What part of the body are we referring to as mental health?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Church. Thank you, Pastor Tolu, Pastor Toyosi. Thank you very much, Pastor Reed. I appreciate you all. Daddy, Mommy, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Tolu,
thank you. All right. Please permit me to deviate before I come to your question. Media, the man behind the voiceover is phenomenal. Please, a round of applause for him. Yeah. Do you work in the radio house or media house, by the way? Your voice power is awesome. You got excellent delivery, I must say. That was flawless voiceover. Voiceover at its best. I got someone to do voiceover for me and paid them. What they came up with wasn't half as good as what you did. One more time, please. Thumbs up and kudos. Keep it up. Very good. Thank you. Now, mental health. Simply, mental health is not the absence of depression, not the absence of anxiety, not the absence of panic disorder, not the absence of what you call psychotic disorders or use of drug use problems. Rather than define mental health by the absence of the negatives I mentioned a few minutes ago, mental health rather consists of positives, and there are 4 positives to mental health. The first is that state of mind, that psychological state of mind, whereby you are able to reach your full potentials. That's mental health. That state whereby you're able to think, you're able to feel, you're able to behave, and you go on to reach your potentials. That's mental health. 1. Second, that state of mind whereby when life does hit hard, and sometimes life really hits hard, you're able to bounce back. You feel down a little, you feel emotions, and then you bounce back. Unlike some others who cave in and quit, stop doing life. Mental health refers to that state where you're able to bounce back. The third is that state of mind whereby you're able to contribute to your community. And finally, that state of mind whereby you are productive. Because this is a church, for context, Psalm 1 encapsulates what mental health is all about. It's like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bears forth its fruit in season, that's been productive. In addition to that, that's you're reaching your potential. A tree is nothing if it does not produce fruit. It will go extinct. You're productive, you reach your potentials, and then the seasons change. When it's winter, when the dry season comes, when hard times come, the leaves of the tree do not wither. It feels the heat but does not wither. That's mental health. And finally, the tree provides shade, provides comfort for people around. That's contributing to the community.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very vivid description of what mental health is, because I think that's the most positive definition I have heard about mental health before. And so I really thank you for that. Because as a society in general, there's this awkwardness, especially talking about it in church, there's this awkwardness that comes with anything mental. We seem to, I like what you said when you started, that we're not going to talk about the negative things. Mental health is first about the positive things. So, what is now mental illness?
Thank you, Tolu. Thank you. And, okay. Again, for simplicity, I would say there are 3 Ds to what we know as mental illness today, but I won't leave it at that. First, mental illness is not the direct opposite of mental health.
Okay.
We say someone has a mental illness when there is a first D. The first D is a deviation. In other words, this person has experiences that are different from what is considered in the society as normal. These experiences can be in 3 domains. Forgive my itemizing as much as possible. Perhaps someone wants to take down notes. I just figured it might be easy to put them together. If your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors deviate from what is considered the norm, we suspect the likelihood of a mental illness.
Okay.
The second is if there is distress. Distress refers to pain. Distress to you or to the people around you. Again, the 3 domains, if there is distress to you or to others resulting from the thoughts in your head, from the emotions you experience, and from your behaviors, there is distress to you and distress to others. That's what the second D of mental illness. I'll give a vivid example shortly after mentioning the third D. The third D is what we call dysfunction. This person is not functioning as he ought to. So the 3 Ds again: deviation, distress, and dysfunction. Let's consider a young boy and his parents who uses psychoactive substances.
Okay.
Well, this is church, we are parents here, who uses weed, who uses loud, for example. That is not considered normal. It's a deviation from what is considered normal. So that's the first sign of a mental illness. The second is distress. Now, this young chap may say, I get fun, I feel high from it, it causes me no distress. But the mother has sleepless nights. So that's distress to the mother. It's another sign of mental. And the third is D. This young man, his grades in school are dropping. That's dysfunction. He's not functioning as he ought to. When everybody gathers together in the family to socialize, he stays away, he withdraws. So these are the 3 Ds that constitute what we know as mental illness. And then let me quickly chip this in. The vast majority of us who are seated here might say, well, I don't do substances. My feelings, my thoughts are not much different from what is considered norm. I function well. I don't cause distress to anybody, so I am mentally healthy. Yes, you are right. But there is a subset of mental illness. We don't exactly call it mental illness. I call it suboptimal mental health. If there are doctors in the house, you know there is a relatively thin line between what you consider normal blood sugar and what you consider diabetes.
Yes.
It's called impaired glucose tolerance. Am I correct? Yes. The vast majority of people before their middle ages do not have diabetes. Those after middle ages have diabetes, when their blood sugar goes above a level. Now, between them is a space, a not so safe space you call impaired glucose tolerance.
Okay.
The same can be brought into mental health. The vast majority of people have mental health, good optimal mental health. And the people who I see in my hospital have had a psychological breakdown. They have mental illness. And then there's another space, suboptimal mental health, where many of us unknowingly are right now. We are not really pulling our weight. We are not reaching our potentials. When life eats, we stay for too long, we stay down for too long. We are not as productive as we ought to be, and we're not contributing as meaningfully as we ought to. That's suboptimal mental health.
So we will get back to that group of people that you just mentioned, because I think quite a lot of people actually fall into that category. But before we continue, I also want to find out, in your experience as a Christian and as a psychiatrist, as a psychotherapist, what will you say are some of the wrong notions we in the church have about mental health and mental illnesses in general?
Wrong notions, I'll bring it down to one word: stigma. Period, stigma. Stigma results from the attitudes, the beliefs we hold about mental illness, born largely out of incorrect information. I'll give you one good example, and I suffered a lot from this in medical school. I belonged to a church where we were the word. The word, the word, the word, the word. If you're a Christian, you can never be depressed in your life. So I believe. If you're a Christian, you can never be afraid in your life. If you've got the Spirit of God within you, you can never have any mental health challenges. As a matter of fact, I was told back then in fellowship, you can't be a psychiatrist and be a good Christian.
Wow.
And I like challenges. I like being there. And I said, okay, let's wait and see. I'm going to be one. So a lot of misinformation fuels Christians' attitudes to mental health. And I'll shock you. A lot of us in the past, maybe not anymore, used to pray, God, give me a double portion of the spirit of Elijah. You have no idea who Elijah was. Are you aware Elijah was depressed? Yes, he was. He said, I am not better than my fathers. Kill me. Kukuma, kill me. He was suicidal. And he was a prophet. Christ Jesus, do you know Jesus said, my soul is sorrowful even unto death. What's that? Anguish, sorrow. That's Jesus. And David, the man after God's heart, read the book of Psalms. Why, oh, my soul, art thou downcast? It's written there in the Bible.
Can you just give us an idea? What is the prevalence of mental health issues? Don't let us say illness. What is the prevalence of mental health issues? I don't want to say in the church, in the society.
Well, we're in the church. Church is the fulcrum, the support of the society. Let's start with the church. Please, nobody should come and break my head after the service. But look to your right. Just count 3 people to your right. Count 3 people to your left. According to research, one of them has a mental health challenge. I know me tokamo. Is that common? If you have a church of 100 people, then you can be sure that at least 25% of them have a mental health challenge. Say 10 to 25 of them. That's huge, right?
That reminds me of that saying that it's okay not to be okay.
Excellent, I agree.
It's okay not to be okay, and I think it's okay to talk about these things,
Yes,
even in church. I think church is the best place to actually talk about these things.
And if you ask me what Pastor Tolu and Pastor Toyosi do really is psychotherapy, low-key. A lot of people go to see them. What do you go and talk to them about? Do you talk to them about hypertension? Do you talk to them about diabetes? No, you don't. You go talk to them about how you are feeling. Pastor, I don't like the way I'm feeling. Pastor, my life is, I'm overwhelmed. That's mental health struggles.
So, which takes me to my next question is, when we maybe somehow identify that someone is struggling in their mind, what should be our approach to it? Because I'm saying this because recently I started doing some study in the area of mental health, and I've just been shaking my head at myself that, Tolu, you've been so wrong. Because sometimes, you just think, come on, pick up yourself, bounce. But I talk like, I used to talk like that. So what is the right approach to people when we know that they're having some struggles?
Empathy, compassion, empathy. And to put it in context, if I were in their shoes, how would I love to be treated? That might just help you. Ever felt overwhelmed before? Imagine you're feeling overwhelmed and someone comes to you and says, snap out of it, get out of it. How would you feel? Invalidated. Do you know what I'm going through? Do you know what my struggles are? You think it's that easy? If it's that easy, won't I snap out of it myself? It's not that easy. So empathy, love, compassion.
So this just tells me that love always wins.
Yes,
It means it just feels like in Christianity and in life, love is the solution to a lot of things.
Absolutely. And let's bring a vivid description. A woman was caught in adultery in the book of John chapter 8, and she was overwhelmed with guilt. That's a mental health struggle. And the pastors and the elders and the leaders of the church came and said, you've broken the rules and the values and the principles of the church. You're an embarrassment. You're a disgrace to the church. We'll kick you out of church. We'll excommunicate you out of church. And they felt, no, we have a head of the church, Jesus. Let's go to Jesus and ask for his approval so we can kick her out of church. And Jesus showed us how to deal with people who have mental health struggles.
Wow.
We are all human. We are all in this struggle together. We all have our individual struggles. And Jesus advocated compassion. Let's show her some compassion. And I believe that should be the attitude of us all to people who have mental health struggles.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that, even as we go into first service and second service, you will help us to realize more stories about mental health issues in the Bible, because that kind of brings it home for us as Christians, and we can relate better when we know that, oh, this is it, this was it, and all of that. But the next question I want to find out is, when I was growing up, I think I had a very experiential teenage years, adolescent years. And I remember times when, for no reason, I'll just be sad, especially towards my birthday. And I would just be crying for no reason. And my dad, who was a wonderful dad, I would just start snapping at them and having issues, and I couldn't really explain it. But yes, we've overcome where we are now by the grace of God. But now, these days, we hear a lot about this word, depression. And when some of us in the old, did I just say some of us? Sorry. Some of them in the older generation, when they hear depression, they're like, or sad, you're like, come on. So what is, because it seems like there's a lot being said about depression these days. What exactly is depression? How is it different from just being sad?
Thank you very much, Tolu. In the course of the service, I have a couple of slides that one of them addresses this. Now, all of you here, I'm told, are very, very wealthy people. God forbid, but let us assume that you lose some money. Would any of you dance and throw a party when you lose money? No, that's unnatural. That's unrealistic. As a matter of fact, that's what you call toxic positivity. The natural response to that is a feeling of sadness. It's normal. Even in the Bible, when Stephen passed on, the church mourned him. They felt sad. Sadness is normal. However, depression is unhealthy.
Okay.
It's the unhealthy, more intense, more pronounced, disabling form of sadness. It's all normal to feel sad. But when sadness becomes too much, too intense, when it lasts for longer than usual, and it occurs too frequently, that is a mental health challenge. Back to my example, say you lose ₦1 million, God forbid, and you feel sad for 2-3 days, for 1 week, that's just normal. You don't eat for the first 2 days, that's fine. But by the third day you feel, well, I still feel sad, but I think I should just start eating and let me just take a break. Let me ask how I would get this money back. That's normal response. Not dancing and throwing a party. If, however, you lose ₦1 million and 3 weeks down the line, you've not eaten anything, you've not drank anything, you're sad, you're saying, there's no point being alive anymore. I am worthless, I'm useless, I'm a failure. I can as well just die. That is depression. Abnormal sadness, exaggerated sadness, that's no longer helpful. That's no longer helping you make sense of the situation.
So is this easily recognized in people? I know as you're talking, some people are probably self-diagnosing themselves right now, like, am I, but is this, first of all, is this easily recognized in somebody else? And then if we recognize it in ourselves, what should we do?
Thank you. It's easily recognized. There's a saying that it is the person who wears the shoe that feels its pinch. You're sad, you're not sleeping well, you can't go to work, you can't function optimally at work. You know something is wrong. So for you, it's easily recognizable. However, the challenge is the people around us, and I'm guilty of the same. We feel, don't worry, what's wrong with you? You lost ₦1 million, and so what? To me, it may not mean a lot, but to this person, it's all the world. So for others, it may be difficult. And some telltale signs that might help you include people's looks. Now, you all look beautiful, you all look gorgeous, that's fine. None of you is depressed, amen, in Jesus' name. However, if you notice someone who's ordinarily sunny and happy and excited, looks down, does not look herself. In my world rounds, I'm able to it's easy for me to spot people who have issues in the team. Girls who come with their red lipstick, and you're at the word round without a lipstick. I ask after the word round, are you okay? What's the problem? Those are telltale signs. Now, someone who ordinarily would not put on makeup, and they come with very loud makeup, that's also a telltale sign. She's trying to mask something by overcompensating for it. When people begin to lose weight, they begin to lose weight, and they are not working out. Their clothes look a bit unfit on them. Their personal hygiene goes down. They tell you they are tired every now and then. They feel less energy. Something is just not right with them. We'll talk about the core signs of depression, but these are telltale, everyday signs that you may speak. Then when people withdraw from social gatherings and social events, someone who always makes social media WhatsApp posts of the parties she attends every Saturday, and stops all of a sudden, that's a telltale sign. Something is amiss. And finally, if you check people's social media status and you notice a change, that's a telltale sign. When they become godly all of a sudden, and it's not a result of a real encounter with God. Yes, they are trying to make amends, make their paths straight with God so they can go join Him. They are contemplating suicide. So these are telltale signs. They begin to tell you, talk about people they've not seen in a long while, make a lot of posts. They are telltale signs.
So what do we do when we recognize this?
Cry for help.
Okay.
Yes, if reach out to them immediately. Make sure they are not alone. Make sure there are no firearms, dangerous objects. Call for help. It's a crisis situation. Scream, shout, call for help. One way or the other, you find help. Call for help. That's what I will say to you. Call for help. A friend's elder sister called me straight from Lagos that a niece who was staying with her all of a sudden became withdrawn, would not come join them at dinner, table at dinner. She called me. Okay, let her come over. And then she was depressed. She was actually suicidal. Thankfully, she called out for help. The girl is fine now. She's jacked back to the UK. The aunt is no longer worried or scared.
Thank God.
That any evil might befall
God. So
her.
That leaves me with the thought that as brothers and sisters in the house of God, we need to be quite observant of people. And, sometimes we say, oh, check on this person, check on that person, not just as a result of being religious or spiritual, but as a result of genuine concern for them. Another thing I would like you to briefly talk about is, so someone was telling me that last month, Christian lady, fantastic lady, if I might say. Okay, actually talking about myself. So sometime last year, I had this overwhelming, we were building our house. And then I had this overwhelming fear of Shamakpari, Ile Isha, Shamasheton, is this just this? And when Yoruba says Ayayonja, I realized that it's a verb, because it's like I felt my heart sink into my tummy. I couldn't think of the smallest thing without having that feeling. It was always like, don't say anything around me, because my heart would just sink, boom.
Yeah.
And so I went through that for a very long time. And I couldn't really share. I couldn't tell my husband, or I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want to make him scared. And so I was reading my Bible, and I came across Psalm 131. And David was saying, I do not concern myself with matters that are too high for me. And after I read that, it was like deliverance.
Wow.
And that thought has not stayed anymore. Coupled with the fact that my recent understanding of some mental health terminologies like CBT,
Yeah.
and I was like, how can you help us as Christians realize that the Bible is therapy? So please, if you have any questions, just before you answer that, sir, if you have any questions, please help us go to the Slido website and type in that code and put in your questions so that Dr. Emmanuel can answer some of your questions before we have to round up the live service. So back to the question.
Okay. I have a few revolutionary ideas on this. My teachers must not hear me say this, but even my pastors should not hear me say this. Well, they may be proud of me if they hear me say this. Personal opinion, I personally think one of the most understated names of God is Jehovah Psychotherapist. As a matter of fact, the first and the best psychotherapist in the world remains Jesus. How do psychotherapists work? Words, talk therapy. And Jesus' miracles, how did he perform them? Words. How was the world created? Words. He sent forth his words and he healed them and delivered them out of their destruction. The Bible is psychotherapy through and through. Now, was your life changed when you saw that passage in the book of Psalm? Was transformed. Can we please have the NLT, Romans chapter 12 and verse 2, the NLT? If we can, that would be great. Yes. This is how the Bible comes to your rescue and my rescue when we are overwhelmed with emotions, thoughts, and feelings, mental health struggles. Thank you. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. She mentioned CBT. CBT is simply cognitive, that's thinking, behavioral therapy. Changing your emotions, changing your behaviors by changing the way you think. What that passage of the Bible did to her was transform her into a new person, confident person, happy, joyful person by changing the way she thinks. That's what the Bible does. And the Bible has the cure. Psychotherapy is healing of mental health struggles, healing of states of the mind. That's what the Bible does. And, okay, I'll share a few, they are not on the slides, but in the course of the service, I'll share a few scriptures with you that I think, if you understand these 4 scriptures very well, you should not have any mental health struggles for the rest of your life. That's audacious, I know, but it's the Bible after all, so you can bank on God's word even if you don't trust my own judgment. But the Bible is sufficient. Believe me, it's sufficient. It is sufficient. Meditate on the word. Have God change your mind. Let him transform your life. You'll be transformed, really, from a fearful, timid, guilt-ridden, depressed, emotionally unstable person to a confident person. A man who is making yourself, you make yourself proud, make God proud, make the church proud. The Bible will do that. Have I answered your question?
Thank you very much, sir. So it's amazing. I like Jehovah Psycho. How did you put it?
Yeah.
Jehovah Psychotherapist.
Yes.
So
yes.
okay. So now finally, well, from me, while we wait other questions, what is? So we know physical health. Everybody knows. Do your exercise, eat a healthy, balanced meal, and drink plenty water and all those things. To maintain good mental health, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, for the sake of being politically correct, I'll join you to say Make sure you sleep well, get adequate amount of rest and sleep if you can. It is me and you that can actually sleep. But when you got bills piling up, you got demands, you got targets to make, you've lost something huge. That advice, sleep, get 7 hours, get 8 hours of sleep, does not make any sense. I've been there. It does not make any sense. Get a lot of fruits and vegetables. When you are broke, that advice is meaningless. But for the sake of being, so that my professors will be happy with me, eat good food and vegetables. But don't come and ask me for the money for good food and vegetables. Now, exercise. Exercise. You got 2 children, toddlers. How are you going to exercise? When you have to care for them and you have to resume work and you have to drive kilometers to go to work. But for the sake of being politically correct, again, exercise. If you can, these are wonderful tips to help you maintain your mental health. But then there are some other ones that are not so difficult. Community. Community. Engage. Don't be alone. Loneliness is not healthy for your mental health. So please engage. Wherever you are in the church, at workplace, at home, engage with persons real time. And finally, what I have come to realize that trumps everything else is the way you think, your thoughts. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. When you think, we'll come to that in the course of the service, wholesome thoughts like the Bible encourages. If you look at Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 talks about anxiety, panic attacks. It gives you the cure for that. And verse 8 tells you how to stay away, how to keep anxiety at bay altogether. If therefore be anything noble, anything truthful, pure, excellent. God is your provider. Why are you not thinking about God as your provider, which is true, which is noble, which is excellent? Why bother yourself thinking about what is beyond you, whether you will complete the building or not? Think about what the Bible says to think about. Okay, we're not there, but it's in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8. So your thoughts really, let Christ dwell richly in your heart, and let the message of Christ, let it dwell richly, let it dominate your thoughts. That way, as much as possible, you keep mental health at bay.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know if we have any other questions. We don't have questions on Slido yet, but maybe someone wants to come out and ask a question. Pastor Tony, sir, do you have any questions? Okay, there's a question. Can we get a microphone, please?
That can it be familial, runs in the family?
Yes, thank you, sir, but it is not very significant. It is not cast in stone. Some people have strong genetic predisposition, but if they put in practice some of these things we just highlighted, they can live healthy lives without coming down with mental health problems. Why some people without the genetic predisposition, if they're unable to put this into practice, may break down and come down with a mental health challenge. In other words, your genes do not entirely, totally define you when it comes to mental health. You can change the expression of your genes, yes.
So let's say there's a parent who has had some mental health issues. What are the, scientifically, what are the chances? Because I like that you said it's not significant. So what are the chances? Because some of us like to overthink. And once we have the truth of even science, then it helps us better cope with whatever it is that we're going through. So what are the chances?
Thank you. Before the chances, now genes alone do not predispose to mental breakdown. They interact with numerous other factors in the environment, your thinking styles, your place of birth, where you grew up, how you handle day-to-day situations, the friendship, the connections you make. Now, specifically, it ranges from one mental health disorder to another. For schizophrenia, for example, the psychotic disorder, everybody without a genetic predisposition has a 1% lifetime chance of coming down with schizophrenia. Now, those whose either parent have it is 7%.
So it's really insignificant.
Not very, very
If my math is right, that's 0.07%.
Yes. And if these people take proper measures, put in place adequate measures, that gene that has a 7% chance of expression, that gene for schizophrenia, nobody even knows the exact gene, that's a 7% chance of expression in them. You can mute, you can, forgive my choice of word, delete that trigger that makes you come down with it if you put in practice some of these things we said.
So in the absence of any other questions, I really want to thank you, sir, for a very enlightening session. God bless you, sir. So we have come to the end of Mind Matters, our live service for today. I really want to appreciate you too. Everybody who was listening so attentively. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.